Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. As usual, we will be discussing an important Arab file. Today we'll be speaking about the Libyan conference that was held in Germany, in Berlin, 4 days ago. And Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry attended the meeting along with all concerned parties concerning the Libyan developments and the Libyan issue. This is the second conference that is taking place for the Libyan cause. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry praised the international consensus that was agreed upon for the immediate withdrawal of all foreign entities, mercenaries and groups to allow the Libyan people to continue their projects or to continue their political process in order to achieve their own stability and security. Addressing the Berlin conference on Libya in Germany, Shoukry underlined the importance of putting into effect the UN Resolution 2570, calling for the immediate exit of all foreign forces from Libya. We'll be speaking about this important conference that took place in Germany. We'll be speaking about the development in Libya and the future of Libya in our episode later on. Before we delve into our discussion, just a few minutes ago, the Arab Parliament had a very extraordinary session, and the head of the Arab Parliament, Adel bin Abdurrahman Al-Asumi, praised the role of President Fattah al-Sisi to defend the Arab national security as well as the issues of the Arab nations. The President of the Arab Parliament's remarks came during the special session of the Arab Parliament held on Saturday to support Morocco's concerning the illegal immigration file. During the session, Al-Asumi reiterated the Parliament's support for the legitimate rights of Egypt and Sudan on the Nile waters and the stances of both countries concerning the Grand Renaissance Dam. In addition, Al-Asumi voiced the Parliament's support for Morocco's regarding the illegal migration, condemning the European Parliament's resolution. Meanwhile, the Arab Parliament awarded the Order of Merit to the head of the Consultative Assembly of Saudi Arabia, Sheikh Abdullah bin Mohammed bin Ibrahim Al-Sheikh, for his distinguished role to defend the Arab issues on the international arenas. Back to our episode, and before we start with our discussion, let's first have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more details.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with visiting Libyan Foreign Minister Naglaa al-Mangouh on Sunday, stressing Egypt's full support for Libya's national unity government and its role in restoring security and stability. Presidential spokesman Bassam Rodi said that President al-Sisi asserted full rejection for any foreign interventions in Libya's internal affairs which impact its unity and the Libyan rights. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres appealed to the Security Council to renew a cross-border aid operation into war-torn Syria for another year, warning that a failure to do so would be devastating for millions of people. Guterres addressed the 15-member body ahead of a likely showdown next week between Western members and Russia and China over the renewal of the mandate of the long-running aid operation, which expires on July 10th. Algerian Prime Minister Abdelaziz Jarrad resigned on Thursday, opening the door for President Abdelmajid Tebboune to name a new cabinet. A new government will have to tackle a deep financial and economic crisis due to a fall in oil prices. Al-Jarrad's resignation follows a parliamentary election on June 12th that was marked by a low turnout, a no-majority winner after 2 years of mass demonstrations and political turmoil. The military-dominated establishment believes replacing the parliament and constitution is the best way to end the biggest crisis in a decade. The Hirak protest movement is demanding an uprooting of the entire system. Sudan asked the United Nations Security Council on Tuesday to meet and discuss a dispute over a giant dam being built by Ethiopia on the Blue Nile. Sudan's Foreign Minister Mariam Sadiq al-Mahdi called on the Security Council to hold a session as soon as possible to discuss GERD and its impact on the safety and security of millions of people. In a letter to the Council head, she called on him to urge Ethiopia to stop the unilateral filling of the dam, which exacerbates the dispute and poses a threat to regional and international peace and security. Ethiopian officials did not immediately return messages seeking comment. The United States on Thursday called on the international community to fulfill their pledges to increase funding for humanitarian assistance to Yemen and warned that aid programs could otherwise be forced to close. U.S. Special Envoy to Yemen Timothy Linder King told a webinar sponsored by the National Council on U.S.-Arab Relations that humanitarian programs for Yemen will begin to close unless contributions increase in the next few months. Sarah Charles, a senior official with the U.S. Agency for International Development, echoed Linder King's warning. David Bresley, the top United Nations official in Yemen, said that governments had yet to fulfill pledges made earlier this year, totaling $2.1 billion American dollars to help address the dire humanitarian crisis caused by Yemen's civil war.
Right, welcome back. And to highlight the issue and the Berlin II conference that took place in Germany, we have with us over the phone Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Fine, thank you so much. Your Excellency, we're speaking here about, this is the second phase or the second conference on Libya that is being held in Germany. Let me take, why Germany? And how important is this conference?
Why Germany? Because Germany has a huge volume of investment in Libya since decades. I served in Germany myself, and I see even in very critical times, Germany was very close to help Libya in order to continue its space for development and democracy. Now it is the same. So we have Berlin I and Berlin II. Also, of course, the much important partner on our side of the world is Egypt. We are the closest partner to Libya. Millions of Egyptians are helping Libya for its development, and they work in Libya. Always I attract the attention that we are hosting tens of thousands of Libyans in our country in Egypt. So a lot of interest between Libya and Egypt. And it's quite clear that we received in Egypt, in Cairo, the foreign minister of Libya. Then our foreign minister went up to Berlin to help having one united government and one united country in Libya, in order to have Libya back to the Arab fold and to the international arena. Libya is not a poor country, and this is good and bad. It's good that Libya doesn't need the help of anybody concerning the finance, but also some greedy countries or factions are putting their eyes on the wealth of Libya, and we have to protect our brother country to keep its wealth for its people. So let us hope that this very delicate situation, we shall pass this time, and we shall reach December with a new election in Libya in order to settle a parliament, a government, and a leadership.
Yes, but before we reach this, let's again focus on the German conference, or the conference on Libya that was held in Germany. And let me here take your reading to the developments in Libya, because since Berlin I, Here we're speaking about Berlin too. There has been this transitional government that is taking place, that is preparing for the next general elections that will be taking place in Libya. Lots of developments has occurred on the Libyan scene. First, let me take you reading about the developments that occurred in Libya and how is the situation on the ground.
There are positive and negative developments. The positive one, that we succeeded to gather all the Libyan parties in order to sit together around a negotiation table. And this is a good step. Another good step, that we are all waiting for December for the elections. So we hope that this will continue. Negative development, that we have thousands of foreigners heavily armed in Libya, and they do not know where to go. And we are asking everybody to withdraw those forces, whether it is a militia or it is a part of the military forces of one country, well known. So we, all of us, whether it is Egypt or the European Union, the United States, all of us ask the foreign forces to leave. Here we have a sort of a negative forces against what is going on the positive side, because they are greedy of what Libya having, and they want to share the wealth of Libya. They have to stay in Libya, and we have to resist all these attitudes, whether it is coming from a militia or from a certain country.
Foreign interference is indeed one of the hurdles that are facing the Libyan government.
Absolutely.
If we speak about the foreign interference, then we have also to speak about a UN resolution, and we're speaking here about a UN resolution 2570 or 2570, and that resolution was issued even before the Berlin conference and never really implemented.
Took place, yes.
Yes, indeed. Now we're speaking here about an international call for the or consensus over the withdrawal of the foreign troops from Libya. But the other side, or the party who is putting the foreign troops in Libya, is saying that they had a kind of agreement with a previous regime or a previous government that was in office during that time. How do you view such a reason? How do you view their existence? How do the world look at their existence with such a claim?
Maybe we can discuss the matter if it is about an official army belongs to certain country. Then a new government in Libya will be coming, asking them to leave. The problem is the militia. They belong to nowhere, and we have to face this, and we know in advance that we shall face this situation, that those 20,000 terrorists are in Libya, and they don't have even place to go back. So we have to face this situation seriously and to help Libya to get rid of them.
Ambassador Bayoumi, but it is well known that Turkey is putting some of their forces there, and those are also foreign troops. And we have seen this visit. This is this very weird visit that took place in Libya, even without consultation with the Libyan government, even without a permission from them for their defense minister and their advisor. Wouldn't that be a kind of violation to the sovereignty of a country, aren't those troops our foreign troops? What?
Absolutely, but practically we have to concentrate on the elections to have a new government. Then it will be in power. It will have all the right to ask all the foreign forces to leave. So, but if we continue in this vague situation without a real elected government, then we shall be in real trouble. So let us concentrate on solving the internal problem of Libya. Then we can face whatever interference is there. Bearing in mind that the whole Mediterranean countries are against this interference. The whole European Union is against it. The NATO pact is against it. So in the long run, we are in good position with the condition that we, as Libyan, can elect a government and continue our normal life as a united country.
Very much indeed, but there is this transitional government in Libya that has found the approval of the Libyan people, parliament, and all parties as known. So isn't this a kind of sovereign government to the Libyan people at this particular time, a transitional one that is really preparing for the general elections?
Until we reach the election, we shall be mingled in a long discussion with or against. So let us not lose the target. The target is establishing government, parliament, presidency in December. And we shouldn't let anybody to make use of the actual situation to benefit from this and to stay as foreign forces in Libya. This is against all the interests of all the countries who are dealing with the matter.
Right. If we speak about Libya and the developments in Libya, how far do you think the Libyan people are eager to reach consensus over a Libyan political solution? How do you view the developments inside Libya and the situation there?
I'm quite sure that the majority of the Libyans are with approving a united government, a united country. And this is the role of Egypt and its partners on the Arab side or the European side. And we have a unique position that the whole world is with us. The United Nations is with us, but nobody is yet ready to use forces against this. But let us go politically and diplomatically until we reach the position that we have an elected government which will ask all these forces, whether official or terrorist forces, to leave the country.
We're speaking here about the importance of the inevitability to reach a political solution or a political settlement to the Libyan situation because of many issues that are threatening not just Libya, but rather all the neighboring countries. Reading into the statements or the speech delivered by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry before the German conference, and he said here, or rather he reiterated Egypt's warning at the time of the grave consequences of continued conflict in Libya on Arab and African neighbors. How do you view those threats, and can you further elaborate?
You are absolutely right that we have all the interest and benefit of continuing reaching a political solution, because the other parties would be very happy if we start military actions. Then it will be we shall be all in a lot of trouble, and we shall never reach a solution if we go to military action. Libya is a very big country by the size of the country, and we cannot accept a military action unless we are really forced forces to do that. So we think that we can convince the majority of the Libyan people to come to reason, and I think that we have reasons to be sure that this will happen, and not to be attracted by any foreign forces to put us in a state of war with anybody.
Right. But also in his statements, Foreign Minister also said that because of those threats and because of the consequences of the continued conflict in Libya, that it might be for the African neighbors, they might be forced to take certain measures to protect the national security, and especially in case of the Third Jufra Red Line and the crossing of them. How do you view such statements?
We are using all the ways and means. We are using the bilateral context, Egypt, Libya, Egypt, Germany, or Egypt, every individual country in the EU. Also with the African neighbor countries. They are, of course, they have all the reason to help us and to help Libya in order to come to a peaceful settlement. So all of these circles are different ways to deal with the matter, whether bilaterally, regionally, or internationally. And it will lead us at the end to whatever we want. But not to be attracted at all to start a war in Libya between any different factions. Then we shall be all in trouble, really, and this is not for the sake of Libya at all.
Last week we have seen a visit by the Libyan Foreign Minister Mangoush, Naglaa Mangoush, here to Egypt, where she met with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. You're reading to this meeting, you're reading to the Egyptian role in Libya since the very beginning.
It gives a very important message to everybody that any national government who is working for the interest of Libya will go first to Egypt as the largest Arab country, the largest army in the area, and the most important diplomacy of the Middle East and the Arab world. This is a very good sign that the lady came to Egypt and to discuss the matter, of course, to ask for some help and some advices. And we, of course, we are keen to do that, and we shall continue doing this. This means that now we are listening to some people who are talking the reason. And we hope that this will lead us to reasonable solutions with everybody.
That makes me also speak about the role that has been played by the African Union and the Arab League in this domain, and I guess that the international community at large were praising the roles or both roles played by both organizations. How do you view the role played by the African Union in Libya and the Arab League in their domain to achieve political settlements?
We have the African Union, we have the Arab League, and we have the European Union. And by the way, we are in a very good relations with all these regional organizations. So we can make a sort of coordinator and organizer of the whole future map. And I think that the map of the future is quite clear to everybody. Now we need some practical steps in order to reach whatever we want, and we want a united government in Libya. We want all the Libyan people to feel that they belong to one country, not to any tribe or another.
Mm-hmm. I guess that all Libyans and all the Arabs are very much eager for the much anticipated Libyan elections that will take place in December or by the end of December. How do you view the hurdles that are facing Libya in order to achieve such an aspired settlement?
You know, I am generally I am optimistic, but here I must confess that we are facing a very fragile situation, and we have to be in direct contact with all the parties on daily basis, not to leave anything for any chance of interfering from forces who are not happy with settling the Libyan matter peacefully. So we have to be very careful. We have to be in direct contact with all the Libyan parties and our partners in Africa, the Arab world, and Europe, and we shall continue until, inshallah, we reach the goal we want.
If we speak here about the hurdles or let me say the differences that are still occurring between the Libyan parties, what can we say? What are those differences? What is the situation between the Libyan parties that are existing at this very particular moment?
In a country who decide to take the democratic shape of governing, in a country which does not lack wealth and finance, I don't think that the task is difficult. Libya is a wealthy country relatively, and if Libya takes the decision, I mean all the parties take the decision in order to follow the democratic process, then everybody will have his share of ruling the country, of the benefit of the country, and this is exactly what I mean by the interference of Egypt to convince everybody about this task of work.
But here I'm speaking about the Libyan parties themselves, and I'm speaking about the differences that are existing between the Libyan tribes, because we're speaking here that Libya is or consists of many tribes. Recently, we have seen the existence of some groups also that are dominating some part of the scene. So exactly how do you view the situation here between tribes, the existence of groups, also the foreign interference or existence on the Libyan soil? How or what kind of differences are we seeing here, and what kind of solution can be found for those differences?
Here comes our task as good negotiators to convince all the parties that what they can get as parties is much less than they can get from a big united country. And of course, this problem of having many tribes here and there, it is an African disease, by the way, and we are facing this in many African countries. We are facing this in Sudan, where Sudan left the unity with Egypt to be a different country. Now Sudan is divided in North and South Sudan. Each part, the North and the South, are threatened of another division between parties and tribes. And I lived in Africa a good part of my life, and I know that this is a disease in the whole African continent, where the slogan is that we have to vote for the feeling towards the country, not towards the tribe. It is a very difficult task, and I think Egypt can do it because we are in the middle of such a story decades. And I think that with our good relations with everybody, we can be a sort of arbitrator and a sort of guarantor that the coming solution will keep every part of the country, every tribe will keep its interest and its share in the country's wealth and the country's ruling system.
Right, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, we thank you so much for being with us over the phone and for your input. Thank you so much. And now we leave you with a report on the conference that was held in Germany on Libya.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry delivered Egypt's speech before the second Berlin Conference on Libya, which affirmed Cairo's position over the need to protect Libya's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity and support its people's aspirations for a better future. Addressing the conference, Shoukry stressed the necessity to consolidate efforts aimed at activating the comprehensive political process led by Libyans, including withdrawing all foreign forces and disarming terrorist groups in the country. The top diplomat reiterated that any foreign intervention in Libya's internal affairs would impact its security and stability. Shoukry also stressed the necessity of holding Libyan elections in its due date on December 24th, as well as expel militants and foreign mercenaries from Libya as soon as possible. The foreign minister also noted that the outcome of the Berlin II conference will help to establish a roadmap for a Libyan path that achieves peace. Meanwhile, hopes grew in Berlin for Libya's stability following a decade of bloodshed as Russia and Turkey reached a plan to start withdrawing foreign mercenaries. The UN-sponsored conference renewed commitments to holding elections on December 24th. Libyan Foreign Minister Najla Al-Mangoush voiced hope that there would finally be progress on a key pledge from the first conference on January 2020 to pull foreign fighters out. American officials said that Turkey and Russia were discussing a plan for each to pull out 300 Syrian fighters on opposite sides. The United Nations has estimated that 20,000 foreign fighters and mercenaries are still on Libyan territories.
Right, welcome back. And during this important conference that took place in Germany, Egypt warned at the time of the grave consequences of the continued conflict in Libya on Arab and African neighbors. And that has a great effect really on both regions. I guess to highlight the issue we have with us over the phone, Ambassador Hussein Hariri, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Your Excellency, good afternoon to you.
Hello, good evening, madam.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
And we're speaking, still speaking about the Berlin II conference that took place in Germany over Libya. And we're speaking about the negative repercussions that were raised by Egypt and the attendance of the meeting. How do you view so far the developments occurring in Libya? If I may ask you also about what the negative impacts the participants were speaking about.
No, I guess that Berlin II conference has highlighted the importance of sticking to the resolutions of Berlin conference or the Berlin summit in January 2020. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, German diplomacy plus the United Nations hosted Berlin II in order to give an impetus to the implementation of the resolutions of the Berlin Declaration. And I guess Berlin II has demonstrated, has incarnated an international consensus on the need to move forward with the political process in Libya. Let us agree, madam, that the political process going on in Libya right now is a direct result of the Berlin summit in 2020. And the United Nations, the European Union, Egypt, the Arab countries, the African Union, we are all committed to the carrying out of everything, of every resolution that was mentioned and that was adopted, whether in the Security Council or in Berlin I. So, personally speaking, I don't think that Berlin II conference gave rise to a negative result. On the contrary, it has put Turkey on the spot. It has demonstrated, it has shown that Turkey has become an obstacle in the realization of the political process in Libya.
Indeed, Ambassador Hariri, this is exactly what I was speaking about. I was speaking about that the German or the Berlin conference spoke about the importance of overcoming the negative occurrence of some hurdles existing. Those are affecting negatively the situation in Libya. This is exactly what I meant here. And if I may ask you here about those hurdles that are causing a kind of chasm between the Libyan parties that are, preventing the Libyan from reaching political settlements.
The positive result of the Berlin II conference, madam, is that the world has demonstrated once again that it is sticking to the political process, and that the world stands behind the implementation of the political agreements that have been reached by the Libyan political parties. We understand that we still have a road to travel, but this road to travel will be completed with international support, and Egypt has lent really a very direct support for the implementation of all the Security Council resolutions concerning the Libyan political process. So I'm personally speaking, I'm hopeful, despite the roadblocks by regional powers like Turkey and its alliance with some political forces in Libya. And I'm referring particularly to the Muslim Brothers of Libya. But we rest assured that other Libyan political forces are determined to carry out and to finish the political process by holding the elections next December, and by carrying out also the ceasefire agreement of last October that has stipulated the withdrawal of all foreign forces and mercenaries and the dismantling of the militias. So I'm positive about that, and of course maybe it will take some time. Maybe the Turks and their Libyan allies would make would stir some problems, but at the end of the day, I am sure that the Libyan people would succeed in moving forward, in moving ahead, and in carrying out the very accords, the very political agreements that they have negotiated and that they have signed.
Right. Since the outbreak of the Libyan crisis 9 years ago, and particularly those very recent years, and Egypt has consistently advocated for the need for a comprehensive approach to end the Libyan crisis, and it did not speak only about the security dimensions, but rather the political, the social and economic ones as well. How do you view all those dimensions? What do the Libyan people need to address in this domain? I'm speaking here about politically, economically and socially beside the security dimension. And what role are we expecting from the international community to assist Libyans in achieving what they aspire for?
You may recall, Madam, that the Berlin Declaration of January 2020 has set out three areas or three fields among the political parties to agree upon. The first track was the political track. The second track was the security military track. And the third track is the financial economic track. And Egypt was a participant in the Berlin summit in January 2020. President Sisi was there. And ever since 2020, Egyptian diplomacy has lent its support for the implementation of the three tracks. And as a matter of fact, we have hosted in Egypt some meetings in the military security track and in the constitutional track, which is the political one. And we, of course, we just 1 week ago, the Libyan foreign minister was in town and met with President Sisi, and President Sisi assured her that Egypt would stand by the Libyan people in honoring the Berlin Declaration.
Mm-hmm. If I may ask you here, Your Excellency, what is needed from the international community at large at this upcoming stage in order to be able to help Libyans achieve their aspiration for a return of a strong Libya?
Yeah, I have no doubt, Madam, that the international community, the United Nations, the European Union, the Arab countries, the African countries are all behind the Libyans in achieving the democratic transition by holding the elections next December and by carrying out every Security Council resolution on Libya. I have no doubt about that. Of course, as I said earlier, there will be some difficulties, but at the end of the day, the Libyans, supported by the international community, particularly the United Nations, would overcome these problems.
Right. Ambassador Hussein Hariri, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us over the phone.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam.
And definitely, we are all waiting for the return of a strong Libya in order to be able to fulfill its role played in Africa and in the Middle East. I guess that brings us to the end of this episode. Next Saturday we'll be speaking about an important Arab file. Until then, it's goodbye.